Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to cover now the 5 fundamentals that first-time property developers should live by. Okay, fundamental number 1 is to develop no further than about 60 minutes away from where you live. Now the reason for that is because you're going to be going backwards and forwards to site. Now that could be just to manage the tradespeople, it could be to carry out surveys, it could be to meet the agents, many different reasons, but you could be backwards and forwards to the site a lot more than what you think. Some of you may choose to work on the sites and be hands-on, so that's an even more critical reason to be close by. And the last thing you want to do is be travelling up and down the country in all different directions, working all over the country and just spending all those hours driving around, whereas you could spend them actually working on the site. The other critical thing is really you're not going to get to know an area sort of 2 hours away from where you live in that direction and another 2 hours in that direction. You're going to have to start building new teams. You don't know the demographic of the people that you live there. You probably don't know the end values. You probably don't know all the local merchants. So every time you move about to a different location too far away from where you live, it's almost like having to start a business from scratch all over again. So my advice is to look for somewhere within about 30 minutes from where you live at the beginning. And then if you can't find anything in there, especially if you've done like direct to vendor stuff as well, then move out gradually. Now you've got to remember, let's say that's a 30-minute circle. If you're moving out, a couple of minutes at a time, the circumference of that extra land that's coming into the catchment is a lot. So an hour out compared to 30 minutes out is not twice the amount. It's probably 10 times the amount because the circumference gets bigger. So stick close to home. Fundamental number 2, start small, get big later. Okay, so start off small, 1 to 3 developments, 1 to 3 units on a development. Cut your teeth, learn your lessons. You're going to learn a lot on every single development, and if you go too big too quick, you could go bust. We certainly don't want that. You could lose your house. We definitely don't want that. But by going small, going slow, it allows you to learn the process, build your team, figure things out like dealing with utility companies, dealing with surveys, dealing with development finance, working with private lenders. There's so many moving parts, from finding the land to getting it funded, to getting it through planning, to getting it built and getting it sold and getting the money in your bank. It's just so much to do on your first development. So 1 to 3 units is as maximum as I would recommend anybody goes. Now if you could earn say £100,000 to £200,000 by building 1 to 3 units, you then have the choice to either rinse and repeat and do that on a regular basis. So we still build single plots, still make a sort of 6-figure profit, 4 or 5 months work, quite happy doing that. And then other times we'll do a multi-unit site, like we're about to go and build 3 bungalows next. That one's typically looking to make around £500,000 profit. Just think about before you go too big too quick. There's lots of developers out there that do go bust because they expose themselves in too many sites. They borrow too much money, they can't manage it all. And if they could have just made £150,000, £200,000 on one deal and worked maybe 6 to 9 months, it's a lot less stress, it's manageable, it's more enjoyable, and then you can go on to the next one before the other one finishes. But yeah, start small, get big later. Fundamental number 3, always offer subject to. So when you put your offers in, whether that's by email, whether it's verbally, whatever it is, we always teach our mentees to offer with what's called an offer pack. So we put a presentation pack together, positions the developer, especially for your first time developer. So we use these offer packs, we put our offers in, and that could be an offer subject to valuation. Now, if that valuation comes back lower than what you've predicted, then at least you've got room to go back and negotiate. We did say we would offer X amount subject to the valuation coming in and achieving X amount. If there's a shortfall of say 100,000, then you can go back and maybe say, well, look, let's meet in the middle, or no, we need £100,000 off the purchase price. But at least you've covered it to go back and renegotiate. Now the other offer subject to could be subject to planning. The last thing we want to do is go and buy a piece of land and be stuck with it, or put a big deposit down and then we don't get planning and we lose our deposit. So I'm all about de-risking the projects, doing things correctly, making sure that we don't lose money along the way. So we would always put an offer subject to planning if it hasn't any planning on it. And then once we achieve the planning, whether we lock into an option agreement, a conditional contract, deferred payment, joint venture, there's lots of different ways to do these things. We would only complete on the site once we achieve the planning that we set out in those terms and conditions. The other offer could be subject to surveys. So maybe you want to do a ground contamination survey. Maybe you just want to do a ground investigation to check that you can do a certain type of foundations. And as long as that survey comes back satisfactory, then you're happy to exchange contracts and complete on the deal. So just by putting these offers to, it just gives you a little bit of a room to go back and negotiate if things are not quite as they set out to be on the face of it when you're looking at these sites. And you can go back and negotiate on whatever terms you choose and desire. Now, fundamental number 4 is a big one to me because I was always brought up not to borrow money. I brought up from a family that money was led to believe to be scarce. You have to work hard for money, which you do. But treat your investors' money and your lenders' money better than you do your own. So whether you're good with money or you're not good with money, the minute you borrow money, whether it's from family, friends, private investors, institutional lenders, development finance, banks, peer-to-peer lending, however you choose to borrow money, treat it better than you do your own. And from the day you get that money, strive to pay it back early and strive not to have to go back and borrow more money if you can help it. So I'm like what's seen as a brilliant property developer in the terms of my development lender and private investors because I always pay back early and I don't overspend. I manage the budget very cleverly. Now, to some degrees, I'm great for the lenders because they get their money back quick and they don't have to sort of chase me because my sites are overrunning in time schedule and I've blown the budget, so now I need another 200 grand. But on the other side of it, they want me to borrow money. So it's almost like they do want you to have a delay on your site and have to come back and borrow money. But, you've got to have a huge respect for the money. And, I've got no problem getting paid last in a development. So my lender would get paid first, my private investor would get paid second. Then I will then take the surplus or whatever I've agreed into a development, and I'm quite happy being the last one to get paid because I will honour what I set out to do from day one. So if I say I'm going to do something, I stick to my word, I roll my sleeves up, I get stuck in, I do whatever it takes. If it means going 7 days a week, if it means bringing in some extra labour, if it means spending a bit more money on something, I've got no problem with that. That's what I was prepared to do from day one. And hopefully, if you guys can follow that sort of work ethic and morals, then it will serve you well going forward when it comes to borrowing money for anything in life, but certainly through property developments. And fundamental number 5 is stick to your vision. And what I mean by that is I've got a 5-year plan and I stick to that plan meticulously. So I've got a 1-year very detailed plan, what I know what I'm doing every single month. Then I've got a 3-year plan, which is sort of medium-term goals. And then I've got a 5-year plan, which is longer term goals. And a lot of that is starting to come to fruition at the minute, where we're just about to start going into commercial property through our SAS pension. So redeploying our own money that we've done tax efficiently into a pension pot that we can manage ourselves into commercial property to produce us a pretty amazing income for the rest of our life. And what I'm saying there is, look, you can go into development and make 100 to 200,000 pound a year. And it doesn't have to be a big development, and that's normally enough money for 99% of the people in this country to have a pretty amazing life. 200 grand a year, you can drive the cars you want, you can eat out wherever you want, you can have as many holidays as you want, you can pay your bills without having to worry. That 200,000 pound, yes, it's a lot of money, but you don't really need much more money than that. Now, yes, there is the ability to obviously earn 7 figures, even 8 figures in this industry through property development. But my advice is don't go chasing the money. So find a development that you want to do, get it built out, get your income, do several of these, and you can become your own bank. So you don't need to borrow private money anymore, like we've got ourselves in that position as well. But it's very easy to go and chase big numbers, big deals. They look good, they make us look good. Here's me, I'm doing 35 units. I'm quite happy sticking to my plan, and that is we do small developments up to 10 units. We work on one development at a time, so we have done a couple of developments at once, and it's quite hard, it's quite challenging, trying to manage several developments at the same time, especially if you work on them like I do. I'm fairly hands-on my developments, as you all know. but it does pay to have a vision and stick to that vision. Now that could be you do one to 3 houses for the first 2 or 3 years, then you might go 5 to 10, then you might go 10 to 20, 30 to 40. That's fine if that's your vision. But I've seen it too many times where people come into this industry and they start working with JV partners, joint venture partners, and before they know it, they've ended up in a situation where they didn't really question it how they got there. It's like, well, actually, I'm now working in an office full time. I'm managing loads of people full time. I'm up and down the country all the time. If I'd just stuck to building 1 to 2 or 3 units on my doorstep and treating my investors' money and my lenders' money like it was my own, I could have been earning a couple $100,000 a year, being home every evening, seeing my family, enjoying the weekends, and frankly, just enjoying what this strategy is about. So just be very mindful, have a real think about it before you do get started. If you're busy in all of this sort of stuff and you have got several developments on at the go, maybe just ask yourself the question, am I really where I want to be? Not just financially, but on a day-to-day basis. Because let's face it, life is a journey and we want to enjoy each day as it comes. Yes, there's going to be challenging days, of course there is. But we want to enjoy the process because we spend a lot of time at work, and if you enjoy what you do, you never have to work another day of work in your life ever. Okay, so I hope you found those 5 fundamentals that I live by very, very useful. Support the channel if you can like, subscribe and share. That would be great. If you've got anybody who you think this channel would be of interest to, like I say, share that to them, share it on your social medias. I'm going to try and give you guys as much advice and value as I can over the coming months. We're just about to get started on a new site, so we're going to be documenting that all the way through the journey. The good bits, the bad bits, the mistakes, the errors, anything that we can share to you guys to help you get going on your property development journey. And we'll catch you on the next video very soon.